So here's the thing about form. There are two ways it can be holding your gains back. The first is one which I struggled with as a novice, and that is simply having bad form. All I cared about was increasing the weight on the bar and moving it from point A to point B. I wasn't concerned about using the proper muscles for the exercise, nor was I concerned about the increased risk of injury I was subjecting myself to. But there is also a second way that your form could be holding you back, and this might surprise some of you. I'm talking about having too good form. That's right, I really do believe there is such a thing as having form so good that you actually make less gains from it. I've seen many guys obsess about their form to the point where they are actually incapable of training hard. So here's my no bullshit advice on how to properly approach form in your training. I think you should try to find some sort of form middle ground. Now, I do think that the ideal place for this middle ground is much closer to perfect form than it is to horrible form. Let's say we look at form on a scale of 1 to 10. Where 1 is just atrocious swinging and contorting to the point where the weight is being moved by momentum rather than muscles. And a 10 is absolutely perfect textbook form where no momentum, body English, or secondary muscles are involved whatsoever. Now, when I say form middle ground, I don't mean a 5. We're probably talking more like an 8 or a 9. But if you're always striving for a 10 on every exercise, there's a good chance you're not going to allow yourself to push your limits and actually train hard. To put it bluntly, keeping absolutely perfect form is easy if you're training like a pussy. A certain amount of form degradation can not only be acceptable, but is even necessary for certain exercises with certain loads. I'll give you a specific example. If you're curling a bar, there comes a point where you are physically incapable of stopping your body from rocking back and forth to an extent. It's simple physics, really. If you're holding more than half of your body weight out in front of you, of course it's going to pull you forward. Now, this doesn't mean that you should exaggerate the rocking and use the momentum to get the weight up, but it also doesn't mean that you should let the slightest body swing stop you from progressing on your bicep curls. If you do, you'll probably end up curling no more than 30 kilos for the rest of your life. The same could be said about any kind of barbell row. Once you reach a certain weight, there's just no way to do the exercise without some amount of swinging. But even if we're talking about exercises which don't have a swinging component, you don't necessarily need to worry about some slight form degradation towards the very end of the set. Maybe just the last rep or two. Let's face it, guys, if you're really pushing your limits, training with intensity, and trying to grind out some extra reps, a little bit of body English creeping into your sets on certain exercises is inevitable. It is something you want to keep in check and not let get worse and worse over time, but there's no need to obsess over it and use baby weights all the time just to completely avoid it. So if you've been training for a while and you're not getting the results you hoped for, or maybe you haven't been making any progress for a long time, whether you have my issue where I was using horrible form, or you have this other issue where you're obsessing about doing everything perfect, try to find a form middle ground where you are putting an emphasis on keeping good form and moving the weight safely, but not obsessing about it to the point where you have no intensity left in your training and are stopping each set way too far away from failure. Just telling someone to use perfect form all the time is way too simplistic. So I hope this video added some nuance to the discussion. Thank you for watching, and please do let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.